Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here. Welcome to another Embers Adrift video today. Just a short one, I think, because I wanted to talk. I'm trying to get my head around the conning level mob level of the mobs system that they've got in place. So the way it works in Embers Adrift is you've got the standard EverQuest format for one side of it. So a mob could be, if you've played EverQuest, you're familiar with this. A mob could be white, which means it's the same level as you. It could be yellow, which I think in this game it seems to like the yellow is maybe 1 to 2 levels higher than you, which is similar to EverQuest. But I think as you gain levels in EverQuest, those values can change. And red generally is like three levels higher than you. And then if you got a mob that's blue, it could be 1 or 2 levels lower than you. Again, in EverQuest, as you level up in EverQuest, blues can be a number of levels below you, but you still get experience from them. And it goes to green, which in EverQuest you don't really get any experience for, but in Embers Adrift you seem to get experience. But they've also added this chevron system, like 1, 2 and 3 chevron mobs. So one chevron is aimed at a solo player. 2 chevron I think is aimed at grouping, not grouping, like duos and trios, and then 3 chevrons are aimed at a group. And I can't really get my head around why the system is this way. I'm kind of trying to think it out, but I must confess I'm not having the best of times, because it feels as though just a straight leveling system, just straight levels, feels a bit more, just feels a bit cleaner and a bit more straightforward and more understandable, and also just a bit more logical. Maybe I'm not sure. I guess the thing is that I can't find anything that tells me what the chevrons do. So I did do some testing. I'm not just kind of trying to make stuff up for the sake of it, and I was in a zone and I was killing 1 chevron yellow mobs. So the chevron, 1 chevron means they're made for solo players. The level means that they're yellow means that they were 1 or 2 levels above me. I would say they were probably 1 level above me. And I went down to a lower level zone and I found a 2 chevron blue, which is 2 chevrons, so meant for a duo trio. And it was blue, which means that it's like potentially 1 to 2 levels below me. And I tried to fight it, and it was vastly more. Well, vastly. It was a fair bit more powerful than the higher level mob that I was fighting. So a 2 chevron mob that's potentially 2 to 4 levels lower than the 1 chevron yellow mob I was fighting was more powerful than it, and it was substantially more powerful. So when you try and come up with some kind of like equivalency, so a 2 chevron blue mob, it would potentially be a 1 chevron like red mob almost. As I said, I was comfortably killing the one yellow, so I didn't try a red because I couldn't find any reds that I knew what the mob's levels were. It was no good me going and fighting a red mob that's level 15 when I was level 9. It just, that wouldn't give you a good example. But whatever way you look at it, the 2 chevron blue mob was stronger than the 1 chevron yellow mob, which kind of begged the question to me. So why have you got the chevrons? Why not just have levels? So that if I'm fighting a blue, and if you're fighting a 1 chevron, so if you're fighting just a blue and a yellow, it's obvious what the difference is. It's just level. It's purely level based and no chevrons involved. But I guess the issue is that I don't know really what the chevrons do. They obviously make the mobs more powerful, but how do they make them more powerful? So on the forum, someone was trying to explain that like a group generally can't take on higher than +3 versus the party's levels, basically. So, but does that mean like a plus? Is that a 3 chevron +3, or is that a 1 chevron +3? Because I was taking on 1 chevron yellows, so I don't see why a group couldn't take on like a 1 chevron red, for example. This is where it all just seems to get overly confusing. The only thing I could think of was that maybe what the chevrons do is that they don't change the mob's hit or to hit values. So their armor class or whatever it is they may be, and the amount of times that they hit you or graze you or whatever the thing is. But all that a chevron does is increases its power by giving it more hit points and allowing it to do more damage. which then kind of just makes those mobs like a a tankier equivalent than the one chevrons, and they just do more damage. Yeah, it's weird how they're trying to differentiate between like who can fight mobs. So if you're on your own, what mobs you can fight, and I don't know, like maybe other people see it differently, and they can see that there's a logical basis for the game just basically saying to you, these are your mobs, just stay there, essentially, unless you over level the two chevrons to a bit, I guess. Then maybe that would make a difference. But yeah, I'm trying to get my head around it, and I must confess I'm still struggling. I just don't understand why it's just not done by levels. I'm not quite sure. I guess the thing is that we just don't know. I don't know why they've decided to group mobs in this way, and I'm not sure what the chevrons are actually doing. They're obviously making the mobs more powerful, quite a bit more powerful. But it's not clear on what it is they're exactly doing. And if the chevrons are making them, so if a 2 chevron blue is the equivalent of a 1 chevron red, why would you just not get rid of the chevrons? So then the group that's fighting the 1 chevron, the 3 chevron blue, whites or blues or whatever, could just go and fight 1 chevron yellows and reds. I don't, it's maybe there's a big experience discrepancy. So maybe the chevrons have a higher experience yield. So if you're fighting like a 3 chevron like blue or white mob, that's going to give the group more XP than a 1 chevron like yellow or red. I'm not sure. That's kind of testing that I haven't been able to do yet. But yeah, it does. I do feel that the chevron things, it kind of seems over designed. It seems that for whatever reason they've decided to kind of do this thing where they're categorizing the mobs more than just by level. Maybe it's because it's different and we're just not used to it that there's kind of some confusion over it. And maybe it's because we just don't know what the chevrons do particularly. If it just makes them tankier, hard hitting versions of the 1 chevron ones, then it kind of feels a little bit cheap maybe. But if it increases all of their stats so that they're the equivalent of fighting a higher level mob, then why have the chevrons anyway? Because it's like, it's a strange thing. I think the other thing of grouping as well is that the other reason that I don't like it is that groups are, all the groups that I've been in and all the groups that I've watched on stream that group up, no matter what MMO it is, whether it's from World of Warcraft down to the indie MMOs that I've played on the channel that you know about, Shadow the Avatar, Project Gorgon, Embers Adrift, and other ones that that I've played before. Every group that I've ever seen in any of them I've played in will look for the most efficient way of leveling. They won't think to themselves, like in Embers Adrift, for example, they won't think to themselves, well, we want some experience, we want a level, so let's go and find some 3 chevron mobs. Or let's go and find some 3 chevron mobs at our level, or yellow, or whatever it may be, because generally that's not going to be the most efficient, And I think that generally groups in MMOs, if you're leveling, when you're leveling, you don't think about what's the most challenging. I'll go and do that. You think about what's the most efficient. I'll go and do that. And so, like with regards to that thing as well, with regards to grouping in the chevrons, again, that's something that kind of confuses me. Maybe it's just me, and I'm overthinking it. But if a lower level chevron, higher chevron mob is the equivalent of just a higher level 1 chevron mob, I don't quite see why the chevrons are there. It just seems like an added thing to think about and to balance around rather than just having them as levels. Yeah, but maybe there's more going on that we're aware of. I've looked around and I can't find, like on the forums, there's quite a small amount of posts by people, and I haven't yet found anything relating to chevrons. But maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place, or I'm just being completely stupid or something. But yeah, maybe it's me. But maybe it's just because, as I said before, maybe it's just something we're not used to. But it does feel slightly complex, if slightly overcomplicated, if a 2 chevron mob is the equivalent of a higher level 1 chevron mob. And I guess it must be at some point. There must be a point where there's an overlap. As I said, unless the chevrons just indicate the fact that they do more damage and they've got more hit points, maybe that's all it is. Yeah, but it's a strange one. It's strange because it's new. We haven't seen it before. I can't quite get my head around it still. No matter how much I think about it, no matter how much I try to allow for it. But then I guess that's because, as I've said twice now, I don't really know the mechanics behind it. It's maybe they're just not making that kind of thing available. And maybe people that play the game just log in and they just take it for what it is. Yeah, as I said, maybe it's just me. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to playing more Embers Adrift at the weekend. I couldn't play on Wednesday because the servers are open. When I can't play, I'm kind of hoping that the servers get opened up permanently. I'm not sure if the thing is I've only got one server, which could be a bit problematic actually. Only having one server, and that's being used in the development and the play server. I'm not sure, but there was a patch that came out on Wednesday, as there always is. And they're talking about some new zones and stuff. I'm hoping the new zones differentiate themselves from the current zones. Like one of the zones said it was like a forested tree kind of zone, but we've already got 3 of those. So I don't know if that's if there's going to be something that's going to make that stand out. I think it was called Redshaw, large tree forested region. We've already got some green forested region. We've already got 3 green forested regions, but maybe it says large trees, so maybe the trees are a bit different. Grizzled Peaks, mountainous region with tunnels and stuff sounds interesting. Highlands, hilly region with sparse vegetation and water features. That sounds interesting. It sounds a bit like Meadows, but And then you've got the Gorge, which is a canyon-like area. I'd like to see some different weather stuff going on. I'm not quite sure how complicated that is to implement on Unity, but yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't really have much more to say than what I said in the previous video. Really, I'm enjoying the pace and the difficulty of the combat. I've seen people talk about the combat being complex and quite deliberate in the way you do things. I do agree with it's quite deliberate, but I'm really not hitting. I'm not really, the complexity thing's not hitting me at the moment. It seems quite simplistic, as I said, but maybe that will change as hopefully new skills get added at a higher level. That will be interesting. And I'm hoping to get into a dungeon this weekend as well. What I might try and do this weekend is do a bit more in the way of crafting. So I'd like to make myself a suit, at least a chest armor piece. I did make some chain links before the servers closed, before I stopped playing at the weekend, to make myself a chainmail suit, chainmail chest piece. But I needed some stuff which I think comes from a different skill set, crafting skill set that I haven't got and I can't train. So I just have to use an alt for that, I guess, really. So I might do that at the weekend just to make myself a chest piece, see how that goes. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll speak to you again soon. Yeah, and I'll kind of probably do another video or so at the weekend about Embers Adrift, let you know how I'm getting on. Maybe give you more of an impressions video as to whether it feels like it's worth. I say worth investing. I mean, the thing is, it's a lot of money. I think particularly in today's times, you don't realise how much $50 or £50 or whatever is for people at the moment, the way everything's going. But yeah, I'll try and I'll do my best to give you an honest impressions over the weekend, because that will be even though I won't be that very high level, that will be. I'd have played enough hours to give you an impressions on the game itself. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll speak to you again soon.